Hello and welcome to a Life Too Sweet podcast. My name is Dana. I am a Christian. I am also a conservative. And I'm also a woman. I'm a woman, and it's supposedly still Women's History Month. It is March 30th, and some interesting things came up in my head in the past few. So I'm born again, right? And being born again of the Spirit of God, God is changing me. He's showing me so many things. He's waking me up and showing me truth. And I'm very blessed to have somebody who kind of brings up some of the wording and things to really see it and to put it into perspective and put it into words that I can understand. And I listen to my pastor, who would be Jesse Lee Peterson, and he has a show. I talk about him a lot. And he mentioned something that really, really hit me today on his show, actually. He talked about women make their decisions in fear. And all these memories just started popping up of like kind of when I was a kid, how my mother used fear and just different things that are going on and decision making. And I'm thinking, all right, let me think about that, because that's a powerful statement. And I'm like thinking about it like, okay, we're having situations with, family stuff. And everything is fear, I'm noticing. The whole thing with the vaccine. Oh my God, if your father gets COVID, he's going to die. Okay, so what are we going to do? Because that fear, he's going to die, I'm going to make decisions on my fear, right? And Jesse Lee Peterson put up something that reminds me of being a child. If you don't wear your coat, you're going to freeze to death. And what does that do to me as a child? Oh my God, if I don't wear my coat, I'm going to freeze. So now I'm fearful. I'm going to wear the coat because I'm in fear, not because I know, okay, you know what? I went out today. It's a little cold. Let me go back inside and get my jacket, right? Because if I'm put in fear, how am I going to act? I'm going to act out on my fear. I'm going to live through fear. So let's just take that in the world today, because I am a conservative. I am into politics. I've been watching politics for a while, and I see this with politics. So here I am. I'm scared. I believe that if my father, he gets COVID, he's going to die. That's the fear. I say, that's my fear. Well, I'm going to listen to the TV, and the TV is going to say, hey, listen, man, you have every right to be fearful. You need to wear 2 masks. Well, I better wear 2 masks. You better not go around anybody. Oh, you know what? We need to make some laws so that people make sure that they wear masks and get vaccinated, because vaccination is going to save my dad's life, right? And so everybody should get vaccinated, because it's not fair to my father. He's going to die. Now, is he going to die if he gets it? I don't know. I mean, listen, my father's been getting a bunch of stuff, and he's living. He keeps pulling through. I mean, he's just going through a bunch of stuff, major stuff, more than one thing, and he's making it. Now, I'm not saying he's going to live long. I mean, he's 90. There's going to be complications, right? You get old, your body starts falling apart. It's just the way it is, right? Now, I know that's the way it is. Am I fearful of it? No, that's the way it is. I just know that that's the way it is. We all going to drop our bodies someday, right? So if I look at it in fear, well, now it makes sense that we make the government bigger, because these people aren't listening, man. They're not listening to what the CDC says, And then I listened to a woman in the CDC, and she's talking in fear, like so much fear in her voice about like things that aren't even true. She's talking about that there's no PPEs, like we're shortage on PPEs. Now, listen, I work in a hospital, and we're not having shortage. We just have to go outside of who we normally go outside to. And it's funny because I have a boss, right? And I said, man, I don't like a lot of these different gloves, man. I don't like the way they feel. And she's like, yeah, we're going to have to get different gloves and everything. And I said, yeah, I guess because there's a shortage or whatever. And this was months ago. And she said, no, it's just that they run out. So there's another group. We always go and buy the same name brand, but now we're going outside and we're getting other brand names that we never got before. Bam. Answer. Question answered, right? And so it's not even true that they're having shortage. It's not even true that they had shortage when Trump was in office. I noticed we were getting all of our supplies. Everything was running really smooth. Now, of course, it goes to, our governors, and our governor has to get things out to the people. I've noticed we have not been in shortage of. Now, I can look at what I see And then I could look at what I'm told. And of course, I'm told certain things that, from people who do not like our governor. Our governor is very conservative. Governor DeSantis, I'm in Florida. We have a governor that's conservative. There were things he was explaining on, okay, I'm going to give the rights to the hospitals because the hospitals know. If it's a hospital in Fort Lauderdale, they're going to need different things. If it's a hospital in Jacksonville, it might be different. If it's one where there's hardly no people, we're probably going to need different ways. Maybe we don't need as many vaccines. Maybe we need to give it to our elderly because there's more elderly. Maybe, all those things depend on the towns, right? So I thought that was a good idea. But of course, I'm hearing things like, no, he made a bad decision because they're not getting to all the places. And my mom was telling me that, oh, well, he made a bad decision. I'm like, Mom, remember the beginning, what was going on in the beginning vaccines? There weren't as many vaccines. You have to be more sparing with the vaccine. Doesn't that make sense? I mean, just logic, right? Just logic, not, oh my God, they're going to run out. And DeSantis is it. And if I was with emotion like I had used to be before God, I was very emotional, right? I was very, just like women are emotional. Look at what you see in your life and how women are emotional, right? And so I understand that usually women are going to be so emotional that they're not going to be logical. And I totally understand this. And so something else came up in my head and reminded me about how emotional I was when I was younger. And I had a fiance years ago, and I have to be honest, he had a lot of flaws like we all do. But there was one thing about him that really attracted me to him. He was very calm, and he was able to calm me down. So I was a DJ at one time, and I used to go to clubs and, DJ. And I used to get so nervous when I would have to drive down to Miami. I couldn't even drive. I couldn't even find my records. I would forget my headphones. I would forget stuff all the time because I was so nervous about this ride to Miami, because in my head, it's Miami. People drive fast. It's, you've got to be a good driver. I'm hearing all the things I hear. And instead of being able to handle that, I was emotional and I was not able to handle it. I tried to change it. I just couldn't do it. And I knew I needed a man to help me. I just knew the man could help me get through this. Not that I was told it. I just knew that I needed that. And one thing about my ex-fiance is he would calm me down. And I remember specifically, and God brought this back up in my head. He just reminded me that he used to just calm me down and say, Dana, listen, I want you to not worry about where we're going, how to get to the club, where it's at, what time. You this is the time you got to be there. This is the time we're going to leave. I want you to leave. Be ready to leave by this time. So go take care, get your headphones, get your stuff, and then I will deal with everything else. So I would go, great. I would calm down. I would remember my stuff. I would be calmer. And if I forgot, I know that Steve, my ex-fiance was Steve, he would say, Dana, did you remember whatever? And I'd be like, oh my God, I forgot about that. And he's like, it's okay. Just go ahead, grab that, and I'm going to be in the car for you, And then I felt comfortable. I felt relaxed. I was able to drive there without being nervous. It was like I knew I needed a man to drive me everywhere. I knew that I needed that because I was unable to do it on my own. And now, as being a Christian and understanding the order, right? God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, woman over children, because God created man first. And when he says man, he means the man. He created man first, right? He created the son first, the first creation, right? Corinthians 1:15, right? He created the son first. And just like he created man first, right? And so the man really is over the woman, and he's the one that can really keep us understanding and being knowledgeable of God's love, especially if we're married. And I always knew I had that issue. And so I'm like, God's bringing all these things up. But when Jesse Lee Peterson said that women make decisions out of fear, I was like, that is so true. Fear, emotion. It's never out of, well, this makes sense. Let me do this, right? And I see it. I see it with my mother. I see it with people I work with. I deal with patients that are out of control emotionally. They're over here and over there, and they're telling me things that aren't even real. I'm like, what is going on? Why is this woman getting so emotional because she had to wait a little extra time, you know? It's weird that I've noticed that. And I've always noticed that women kind of can't handle things like that. And I noticed I couldn't handle things like that. I couldn't do it without emotion. I was so emotional. And so that statement he made, now I know 4 or 5 months ago, I would have been like offended by it, but it's so true. I want you to test it. I want you to test it. Just see. Now it sounds right. It sounds like the right thing to do, right? If somebody, if my kid's going to go outside and they have their shorts and no shirt, like a short shirt on, and they're going to go outside, they're going to be cold, right? Guiding them and directing them there, but putting fear in them, that could be a problem. I mean, just think about, as I said before, putting that fear, and then you see it on the TV, and then it's even more fearful, and you live out of that. And just like I did as a child, being told that, like, as a woman, you got to be careful, men are going to do this and that to you. And I noticed, even I heard that about my niece. She said that men don't have to worry when they go outside and women do. And I'm thinking, she's traumatized right there. It's traumatization. And when I was told this, I said, oh, that's not good. And she's like, well, of course that's good. I'm like, no, that's like fear. She's going to live out of fear now. She's traumatized. Now she's going to hate men and be scared of men. And that is so true, but it seems like it's not true when we're emotional. If I'm an emotional person, I'm like, oh, you gotta scare them, because if you scare them, then they'll be careful. But the truth is, if you don't scare them and you don't put fear in them, they'll find a way of handling things. So if I'm in a situation where something like that happens, where a man comes at me or something, I will know how to handle it if I'm not already traumatized. Because say you're a man and you walk up to me fast. Well, my traumatized mind is thinking, well, I got to be fearful of this man because he's going to hurt me. Instead, he might be like, oh my God, wait a minute. I see this girl being kidnapped and I'm already running from this guy. You know what I'm saying? I won't handle it right. But if I take the time to handle the situation in the moment, I will be able to handle it better with this perfect love that God gives us, right? So, speaking about perfect love, this is another thing that Jesse Lee Peterson said last week. No, actually, I think yesterday at the end of his show, he was talking about perfect love, right? And I think I was driving home. And he was talking about like, man, you don't even understand. Like, you only understand perfect love when you know God. And he's like, it's just like a light upon your feet. And he's like, it's peace. It's relaxation. It's, and he was just going, I was like, yeah, preach it. And I'm like, wow, I actually am able to know what perfect love is. And it was kind of interesting because I got to know what love was in the beginning. Like, that's just, I loved everyone. And I didn't see anybody as above anybody or below anybody. I just saw them as themselves. But now I'm getting to really enjoy the perfect peace of where I'm in a situation at work or something. And it's like, people can be yelling and screaming at you and you just see them. And that's it. There's like no emotion behind it. There's just peace. It's just this peace of like, this person's acting a fool, Or if I drop something, I'm just like, oh man, I just dropped that. I got to pick it up. It's like so amazing. Love. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. The Bible doesn't even do it justice. The Bible doesn't even explain what perfect love is and perfect peace is. It's just like walking in chaos and just watching it. Like, you see it and you're just like, ah. Or I was thinking today, like, I got out of the shower and I was feeling so relaxed and good. I'm like, this is what it's like to have perfect love when you're in the middle of chaos. Like, somebody at work is like yelling at me, like a patient or something. And I'm just looking at them like, man, I'm fine. I'm good. No skin off my back, And it's so amazing. And back in the day, I used to think these people don't care, And I can only put it on somebody like Trump, President Trump. It's like I can take President Trump and then I could take somebody like Obama. And you can see Trump after 4 years and he looks amazing. He doesn't look tired. He doesn't sound frustrated. He just speaks it. He just says, this is it. And if somebody comes at him, he'll go, they say this and they say that, but blah, blah, blah. He doesn't go, I can't believe you. You just don't care, Just like Biden. I just saw Biden. like going emotional like a woman, like being emotional like a woman. That's what a woman does. It's not what a man does. It's not. It's just not what a man does, right? I mean, I saw him yesterday talking about the masks, and he's like, I'm going to suggest that all you, and then he's like on the podium, like, like a little baby. I'm sorry. It's so sad to watch a man. It's so degrading to men. Just watching them like, I'm going to tell them that they have to go back to the mandate. I mean, like, oh my God. It is sad to watch men like this. I'm sorry. Does it not make you sad to watch a man so weak and pathetic? I don't know. It's just so weak. It's funny because I remember when I was a evangelical Christian, right? A Bible thumping Christian. I read the Bible. And I remember at the very end when I started waking up, I started realizing something wasn't right. I'm not living in the Spirit. I don't have that perfect peace and that perfect love, just like walking on air. I remembered having this feeling that I hated having emotions. I was like, I hate being emotional. And I started really talking to the elders and the people that had been in the church for a while. And I spoke with one lady who, her and her husband been doing Bible studies for a long time, and they've been Christians for a long time. And I remember talking to her about that. I called her and was like, I don't like having emotions. I think that there's something wrong with it. It's like, I was like, why am I so weak and emotional? And I can't make good decisions when I'm weak and emotional, and she was like, well, some people are emotional and some people aren't emotional. She gave me the worldly answer, right? But I knew, so I was like, something's wrong with that. It just seems weak. It doesn't seem like God was emotional. I never heard Christ be emotional, and I used to say this other thing too. I used to be like, Christ seems like he's mean. Like he seems like he's a jerk. That's how I thought, because I didn't understand perfect peace and perfect love. And perfect love is being honest and being truthful and speaking truth, like right in your face and asking those questions. Like Jesus would always ask them questions. And the way he spoke to the Pharisees and the ones who knew the Bible, he talked to them like straightforward, kind of just like Trump does, and just like when I listen to Jesse Lee Peterson, he talks the same way. So now it's like I can see speaking in emotion is very weak, and speaking in emotion and being emotional is not the image of God. It's not being in the image of God. That's living in the image of Satan, because Satan is a complainer. He's a whiner, right? He's deceitful. He makes you feel good even though you're doing something wrong. You notice that? People are doing wrong. They feel good in the name of social justice. I'm going to rob and steal and kill because you deserve it and I don't. It's just like, I deserve to have money. I deserve to have, a home, And it's all out of this emotion like, well, you have it. And why do you get to have it and I don't get to have it? Like it's whining and poor me. I just watched a UFC fighter who has lost his last 4 fights, okay? He puts up this, they have these cute little videos of like the head of the UFC, which is MMA, a mixed martial arts company. And Dana White is the head of it. And he talks about Woodley being very hard to deal with, and Woodley is hard to deal with. He's a hard to deal with guy. He's hard to get things going, right? He's a social justice guy too. He's a Black Lives Matter guy. He's into Black Lives Matter. So he puts up this thing showing that Dana White never wanted him to be successful, and that's why he lost his fight. No, he lost his fight because the other guy had a better, he came in on him, and the other guy had a better, his punch hurt the guy more than Woodley's punch helped him. And the guy he fought is not the greatest fighter in the world. He's a good fighter, but Woodley was beating people like that. Like this fighter was beating those type of people. And so he puts up this thing, poor me, emotional, poor me. And this is a man who's a fighter, right? He's supposed to be an alpha male because he fights. But he whines and cries. And guess what? He's not a good fighter anymore. He just doesn't beat people anymore. He's never been fun to watch. He's never been a great fighter. I mean, he was beating a lot of people, but today the fighters are actually a lot better. But he's been losing. Whatever the reason is, it could be that the other fighters are just better now. It could be that he's past his prime. I don't know. He's got to look at that. But how are we going to look at our problems when we're going and blaming everybody else? So he goes and blames Dana White that he lost. He's the one that went in there and fought. Dana White didn't fight. He's wanted me to lose. Like, that's just so weak. Like, when did our men become weak like women? Well, there's an answer for that, right? When we bring up the woman who cannot handle those emotions, like I couldn't handle those emotions, there's no way me being in that emotional state that I could be a leader. There's no way. And being a woman, I need the man to be able to calm me down, to get me logical, especially when I'm with a man, especially when I'm married to a man, That's what the men are supposed to be. But as we turn the tables and we switch things over and we allow the women who do not have the ability to be the leader of the family, we weaken the men and we bring up these women who can't do it. I mean, I don't know if you can see that, because it's hard to see these things until God kind of starts showing us, because I thought women were strong. But I knew deep down that I wasn't strong. I knew deep down that I was mentally weak, that I was emotional, and I couldn't get rid of those emotions. And just like I said, I talked about that. I was like, I don't know. I don't like these emotions. They stop me from being able to make good decisions. I saw it, but I only saw it because God allowed me to see it. And I started asking those questions because the answers were not coming to me. It was only like, well, let me feel good. You just read the Bible some more. And nothing was changing because I, as a human being, cannot make changes. Just like a man can't do it without God either, because he's got Satan running him. He's got the woman taking over his job, and he's weak and he's sitting back there doing nothing. And the weird thing is, I'm looking at relationships and things, or I see a situation and I'm seeing the man look at the woman with no emotion or anything. And then I notice the woman getting mad at him for not being emotional. And it's so weird because it's like, no, you're out of control, and he's just telling you. And then it's, well, you don't give me enough time. You don't show me enough love. And it's like, well, I'm showing you love by not acting out, by just giving you the truth. And so it's cool to see it. But the problem with it is it's going to take down our country, because once the man is not in his role, like Trump was in his role, he handled everything like a man. And of course, he wasn't an emotional guy, and and in the world that seems weak, but it's such strength. It's like such strength. I mean, just compare the two. Compare Biden to Trump. Just look at them. Biden is a poor excuse for a man. What a weak man. It's so weird to see it. Is it really weird to see it? And it's cool because I don't have anger towards him, because I understand it. I understand that it's just the way it is when we don't return to God and we live for Satan. That's just the way it is. Right? This is the way it is. That's the way it goes. God made an order. Just like he made an order with certain animals, they have certain instincts. Well, there's an order to human beings. And we are backwards. But Jesus died so we can get back into that order. Right? So I wanted to explain something else, because something cool that Jesse Lee Peterson said. He said, anyone with anger has mental illness. And I was like, that is the most powerful thing I ever seen. I've never heard anything more powerful than that. I was like, oh my God, this man is amazingly smart. And he probably can't even pronounce the words right, but he's so smart. He's so smart spiritually, but intellectually he's not, which is amazing. That's probably why he has such a great connection with God. He has such a great relationship with God. So I'm watching this HBO Max. So I had a procedure, and I couldn't really do much yesterday, so I laid down and I relaxed, and I watched this series on HBO Max. And this was an older one. It was about mental health and mental illness, and I remember seeing this, and it was about twin boys that were born on New Year's or something, and they were supposedly white, and then one of them had mental illness. He had schizophrenia, and the other one didn't, and the other one was like really trying to take care of his brother. But of course, he had so much anger. I'm going to tell you, his anger was the problem. That's it. The anger was, he couldn't handle anything right. And I'm watching this. Now, this is a movie. It's not real. But as you watch how they make the woman seem, they almost make the woman seem like she's helping. There's a woman psychologist he's talking to, a woman psychologist for a man. I don't know why that happens. But I'm watching this man, and it's basically more on the life of the one who is not mentally ill. And you can see how he handles everything wrong, everything out of anger. And I'm watching this man, and I'm going, they're not talking about the man, the brother with the anger. They're not saying that there's a problem there. They're saying that the problem is the connections with the families. And they're looking at this emotional side of it instead of going, this man has anger. And he's getting screaming and yelling, getting mad. He's fighting. I mean, when he's angry, he gets in a car accident because of his anger. He falls off a roof. Well, one of the guys ended up killing himself, so he fell off the roof. But he dropped part of the stuff that he was supposed to be fixing or painting. He was a painter. He drops that. He's angry. He's making horrible decisions and bad things are happening, right? Because when we make decisions out of anger, it never turns out right, does it? Nope. So think about it too. So he was painting this house, and he had to go to a deposition for his brother to help his brother not have to stay in this place that he doesn't like him staying in, right? So what he does is he says he has to go to this. It's really important. So he's so angry. He's goes really tired. He's really tired because he's not sleeping because he's angry. He's handling it wrong. Then he falls off this roof because not just the guy, I guess, inside the house shot himself and he saw it and he fell. But he was doing all these things, really tired. His stepfather, who they make out to be really a horrible person, he tells him, you need to get some sleep, like with no emotion. A smart way to do it. They make him seem like he's the bad guy, but he made sense. You need to get some sleep. I will help you with this tomorrow. No, the guy has to do it his way. The one guy that makes the most sense, they make him out to be, he beat the kids. And then at the end, they said that that's what people say men are supposed to be, that they're supposed to beat the women. No. It's like discernment and beating are two different things. You know what I'm saying? It's like so weird how they see things so wrong. So getting back to the story now, he's so angry and all this stuff. He misses the deposition. Then later on, he realizes something happened to his brother. Either he was sexually assaulted or something. He hears it from another guy. Then he goes and he gets the information about it. So he goes and because he wants to get his brother out of there and he wants to bring him home. Now, he's a mess. He's emotional. He shouldn't bring his brother to his house. The brother is schizophrenic. He thinks people are coming after him and this guy's angry. You think this guy is really going to be able to take care of his brother? I don't think so, right? So he ends up getting the brother out by telling this guy, I'm going to go to, you knew that my brother was being assaulted and people are being assaulted. You got to give me my brother. So his brother goes to his house and he ends up walking out while they were sleeping and he dies. He dies. So now this guy does all this work to get his brother. And then because he's not watching his brother because he's unable to do it. He can't do it because he's so angry and emotional. So his brother ends up dying and I'm watching this whole thing happen and this man makes bad decision after bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. And they're focusing it on that his grandfather was a bad guy. His grandfather wrote a memoir and he was he supposedly abused his daughter and stuff like that. And the whole thing is they make it seem like the men are just evil and the women are so good, like the mother was so good. It's so weird how they switch everything around. It's just so weird. And so the end, they try to make it seem like he everything got better because he went and he apologized to his ex-wife because he made some bad decisions with his ex-wife. And he went to people and he kind of talked to them and was like, okay, I was wrong here. But guess what's going to happen? He never fixed his anger. That's the problem. Because if we don't have perfect love and we live in anger, we were not going to make the right decisions, right? If you live in anger and you don't live in perfect love, you will make bad decisions. 100%. There's no, I don't care. You live in the world and you don't believe in God and you think I'm crazy. Okay, let's say that. Have you ever made a good decision angry? First off, have you ever been able to stop yourself from doing something all the time? Like, I want to eat right and I can always eat right. No, you've never been able to fully make yourself better because we're unable to do it. We're unable to do it without returning back to the natural order. So, talking about all this, I watch the world as it goes around and it talks about all this other stuff that doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter your relationship with your mother. It doesn't matter your relationship with your friends. It doesn't matter that you're black or white. It doesn't matter that you're Italian. Like, I'm Italian. That doesn't matter. My blood is not the same as my mom's blood just because I have a different blood type than my mom does, right? Just because I'm born of the flesh, I need to be reborn of the spirit, and then my identity will be in the spirit. I will live with perfect love, perfect peace beyond all understanding, relaxed. I feel, the light under my feet. It's like you feel like you're walking on water. Everything just works out. When things are going bad, you're fine, right? Things are going bad with certain things going on with me, with my health, that it could be that I have a big issue, that it could be a bad thing, but I'm not worried about it. You think that's of me? No way. I just told you how a mess I was trying to go to a DJ gig. I mean, this is life-threatening. Could be. I don't think it is. It could be. Could not be. My father's getting older. He's not going to live much longer, right? My family's stressing. I got family issues with my parents and my siblings and stuff. Life happens, but it doesn't faze me because I have perfect love and perfect peace. No anger. Perfect love drowns out fear. No fear. So, I don't know. Those things kind of hit me. I love listening to Jesse Lee Peterson. He brings you to yourself. He brings you to look at yourself. And the cool thing is he won't answer your questions. He wants you to answer your questions. You know the answer is within you. All these things that I've started seeing didn't happen because I read the Bible. Didn't happen because I walked up to the altar and said, I confess Jesus is Lord. I always knew there was a God. I knew that. But I judged myself. I judged my mom. I judged my family. And now I can discern and say, hey, my mom makes bad decisions out of fear. I make bad decisions out of fear. How do I make the change? Well, I don't do that anymore because I have perfect peace, perfect love. Not of my own. I did not do any of this. I didn't go to Jesse Lee Peterson and he did it for me. No, he just was the last point of God's been showing me all these things that I was resenting myself. I was resenting my parents. I resented my mom. I had hatred in my heart. He showed me, you can't do that, Dana. You can't be God. You are not God. And you can't hate and you can't judge. And that's just the way it is. You can't even judge yourself. And then I realized it, like I said, when I found Jesse Lee Peterson, and he said to somebody totally different, you resent your mom and you have no right to resent your mom. And you have no right to tell her how she should live. And you have no right to hate and to have judgment. And I was like, you're so right. And it was like, you hate your mother and you need to forgive her and apologize for resenting her. And I'm like, I do resent my mother. Oh my God. And the whole reason is he said I resented my mother for turning me away from my father 100%. And it's not her, it's the spirit within her. And I know that. And I don't hate, but I can see, right? Well, once was blind, but now I see. That's it right there. The Bible brings us back to the spirit within. Because I read people talking about the spirit. I read about the spirit. I listened to a guy on Andrew Murray. And I listened to a 3-hour video. And I'm going to end with this. And I watched this video and him talking about living in the spirit. And I'm like, that's what I want. I want to live in the spirit. I mean, I know God. I know Christ. And I keep hearing about this Holy Spirit. But nobody's telling me what it's like to live in it. And then I remember listening to it. And then I was going, wait a minute. I remember I listened to that maybe a year ago. But did he explain how to live that way? Let me go back and listen to it again. I listened to it again and I'm like, I don't know. He's really not saying this is what you need to do to live in the spirit. I don't remember him saying that. More questions I was asking. So I was seeking and God was revealing, like, you got to live in the spirit, Dana. You got to be reborn of the spirit. reborn of the Spirit. And boom, I was reborn of the Spirit when I forgave and I repented. And then God will get rid of all that junk, right? He's going to get rid of all that pride and that ego of thinking that I can just go on Facebook and say, guys, return to God. I know everything. Listen to me. And it's going to happen. I just have to live it. That's it. God said, fill the earth. And he gave us perfect peace and perfect love so that we could share that into the world. And that's it. We're not that important. So I'm going to end with that. I hope you guys really enjoyed this podcast. A Life Too Sweet coaching podcast on all major podcast sites. Podbean is my host, just like, and all that good stuff. This is my YouTube channel, A Life Too Sweet. I have a transformation series. You can check that out. Also, I put up a little vlog the other day. That was really fun. Check out that vlog, A Life Too Sweet. YouTube, if you're not on YouTube right now, please subscribe, like, share, tell people. I really want to get involved in showing people the truth, especially women, that we can return back to God and not be a mess and all over the place and emotional and mentally ill, right? Up and down and sad and depressed. No depression, no anger, no fear. It is amazing. It's awesome to have been reborn of the Spirit. Wants to live and wants to die. Wants to die and wants to live. When I was reading the Bible, I was dying. I wasn't knowing God. I was reading it. Now when I read the Bible, I go, oh yeah. That's exactly what I'm seeing. Or, it brings you back to what you really know from the inside. And you're like a little baby again, just exploring and discovering the truth. It's really amazing. So I really suggest it. There's something called the silent prayer that Jesse Lee Peterson has. It really helps quiet this so that you can listen to that silent voice that comes from God. Just be still and know within. Once you know yourself, you will know God. And the silent prayer really helps with that. Also, if you want to listen to Jesse Lee Peterson's show, he has from Monday through Friday, the JLP show on YouTube and all podcast sites. He's really awesome. He really helps bring you to you, and then you can find the answers. And then when there's those little things that are confusing, is like he might say something and then it starts making more sense. Like in the beginning, I thought he was crazy, but I knew he wasn't. It was really interesting. Really interesting. I love that he brings us back to us. Look for yourself. Ask the questions. You will find it. God has all the questions answered right within. The Spirit of God is within. This side of heaven, you can live in the Spirit. You don't have to live in sin. You don't have to live in sin. You don't have to live in hate and fear and anger anymore. Perfect peace comes when we repent and forgive. And so I really, really encourage you guys to do that. Thank you again for checking out my YouTube channel, Life Too Sweet. Please subscribe. And my podcast, A Life Too Sweet coaching podcast. Guys, thank you so much again for checking out my podcast and my video. Remember, God is good all the time. Get rid of the anger, man. All right, guys. Thanks again. You have a good one. And I'll see you in the next podcast. Yeah. Bye, guys.